in our other live feeds, and then we're going to kickstart the episode. If you do have any questions that you want to ask regarding this episode, then feel free to comment the questions. Otherwise, I'll come back to them at the end and hear your thoughts and see what you guys thought about the episode. All right, let's get started. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Now, judging by on how many people instantly joined there on Instagram, I think this topic is going to hit for a few people. We're going to be talking about sex, sexuality, sexiness, intimacy, and particularly as a parent. You know what I realized lately? No one is talking about how unsexy so many of us feel as parents. We'll happily talk about losing belly fat. We'll happily talk about getting stronger. We'll talk about eating more protein. But almost no one is saying out loud, I just don't feel like having sex anymore. That's kind of weird when you think about it, right? As busy parents, it's like sex gets kind of lost in the mountain of responsibilities that we have to contend with. And somehow we convince ourselves that it's maybe not that important anyway. I remember reading the book. Let me know in the comments if you've actually read this book. It's called The 5 Love Languages. And in this book, the author talks about why marriages collapse en masse if you don't learn to speak the love language of our partner. It's kind of like living in a house where one parent speaks Japanese and the other speaks French. You'll be totally unaligned because you're speaking different languages. So if yours or your partner's primary love language is physical touch and intimacy, there is a major risk for your relationship if you or your partner doesn't learn to speak your love language. My primary love language is physical intimacy. And if I don't get that, I personally feel unloved. And I can tell you the feeling of being unloved is so lonely. Lying in a bed, waiting for your partner to get in and maybe get off their phone, come to bed with the hope of some intimacy, knowing all too well that they're probably sitting on the sofa doing important stuff, but truthfully hoping that you fall asleep waiting and thus avoiding the intimacy issues. If that hits close to home, it's only because I know it firsthand. This issue plagues so many relationships and would no doubt be the catalyst of lots of cheating events and inevitable relationship breakdown. So whilst the topic may not be that common, I think it's incredibly important to the stability of families. There could be a ton of reasons that sex and intimacy becomes a non-priority. When you think about it, those reasons might include things like medical or hormone dysfunction, a deep down feeling of not being desirable anymore, not feeling confident, not feeling turned on by life. So that's what this episode's about. How transforming your body changes not how you look, but how you connect. That's key, because when your energy, your hormones, and your confidence changes, everything else changes. Your motivation, your mood, your relationships. And before we get too deep, I just want to make something very, very clear. This isn't about being a sex god or chasing some ideal body image. It's about reigniting something that for so many busy mums and dads might have gone cold. And it's not just in the bedroom, it's in life. It's how you show up, how you flirt with your partner, perhaps, how you walk past them in the kitchen. So let's talk about, like, why is it that libido actually collapses? Because that's really what happens for so many parents in mid-30s, 40s, and 50s. They just lose that spark. Let's go over the reasons that actually happens. First, stress and exhaustion. Probably number one. You're working all day, you're dealing with the kids, bills, school drop-offs, maybe running a business. By the end of the day, you feel like a fucking lemon that's had every piece of juice squeezed out of it, right? You got nothing left in the tank. Your body is totally swimming in cortisol. That's a hormone, the stress hormone that just crushes testosterone and estrogen balance. So you've got all this stress in your life. Your hormones are crushed. your sleep sucks, you're running on caffeine, and no doubt your body's not primed for sex. It's primed for survival. Number two, nutrition and alcohol. You might be not be eating badly, but you're inconsistent. Maybe meal skipping, eating late, drinking to unwind, and that stuff all adds up because your hormones, testosterone, estrogen, dopamine, these hormones, they don't you don't get balance in chaos. That never happens. I think the third one is extremely powerful, and this is body image. And for a lot of people, this one will hit hard, big time. When you don't like what you see in the mirror, intimacy can become shameful instead of exciting. And that's not even in absolute terms, that's relative to that person. If that person's feeling at a certain point in their life that they're the most out of shape that they've ever been, even though for them that's crazily out of shape, to another person that might be fine. But if you feel shitty in yourself, you avoid it, right? You joke about it, you distract yourself, and both partners tend to feel that distance. Again, I know this because I'm speaking firsthand. If you're feeling sluggish and soft and disconnected from your body, why on earth would you want someone else to touch it? So, ladies, I want to give you something from the male perspective, and then I want to give it from the female perspective as well. So let's start with the fellas. And I see this every day. I've lived it. When a man is carrying extra body fat and not training constantly or consistently, his testosterone starts to plummet, right? Now that's the plug into the socket. That's what drives your vitality, your spark. Low testosterone, like clinically low testosterone, doesn't just mean less sex drive. It's everything that makes a man a man. It means less motivation, less confidence, less presence. To think that you're going to take some like test booster like guys do, like Tribulus terrestrius, and correct all these dysfunctions is fucking batshit crazy, to be honest. It's just not going to happen. And here's the part that really messes us up. When you don't feel good about yourself, what do? You withdraw. You maybe joke about your gut. You stop being affectionate to your partner because you don't feel desirable. And again, I can only speak to this firsthand. A lot of people turn to porn, to booze, and to emotional eating. And that disconnection with your partner, even like both parties see it. It's not as if it's not there. We know about it, right? Now, here's the helpful bit. When you start lifting weights, when you start cleaning up your food, sleeping properly, that chemistry changes really quick. Testosterone starts to climb, dopamine and serotonin rebalance, you get more blood flow, and suddenly you've got energy again. Some part of you might start flirting again. You start caring about how you look again, not for vanity, but because you're feeling alive again, right? And that energy translates into attraction. Let me ask you a question. If you've got a partner and you're really attracted to them, yes, there's the physical component, but I bet a lot of it is that you're attracted to their energy. Not You're attracted to their confidence, not their ego, but their confidence. I mean, it's all round, right? It's not just physically. This is about personal accountability and loving yourself enough to want to take care of yourself so you actually feel attractive first, which then gets communicated to your partner. I'll be real, like when I experienced this firsthand, it was when I was working too much, trying to launch a business, not eating well, sleeping shit, drinking way too much. My connection with my partner just went, yuck. And it eventually led to the degradation of that relationship. It wasn't that I got abs and all of a sudden started having more sex. That was not it. It was that I felt better about my body and my hormones started to balance. Now let's flip over to the female side. Let's flip it over. Your version looks different. It's completely different, but it's just as real. Having kids, hormones, work, trying to hold the household together. And I'm not trying to pretend that I understand what this is firsthand, because I think that's a bit of a piss take. I don't. But what I hear from women all the time is that your body can feel like it doesn't even belong to you anymore. This is what so many women have said to me directly. You're always on. And when you're always on, it's hard to feel turned on, right? And many women hit their 30s and 40s and they think, where did my libido go? But it's not gone. It's just buried under all the exhaustion and resentment and disconnection from yourself. So if you're constantly giving, you eventually stop receiving, right? Even pleasure. And this is where body transformation, like we talk about in Better Body Academy, it's so much more than just physical. That there is a reclaiming of your emotional space. And when you start training and nourishing your body again, when you start sleeping again, you literally send the signal to your body that it's safe to feel good. Your hormones start to balance out. And the funny thing, we don't talk about this because there's a privacy around it, but the amount of women that have messaged me in our program privately, and it comes across a little bit tongue in cheek, and they say like, my sex life is improving. And they probably wouldn't go and go and slate it on social media, but my sex life is improving. Like, how good is that for a woman to say that? They start looking in the mirror, liking what they see again. They see some glow coming back. When I see ladies in our group get dressed up in a beautiful dress, post it on the Facebook group and go, I haven't been in this dress for 20 years or 2 years. This is amazing. And here's the beautiful part. Your partner feels that energy as well, because sensuality isn't just sex, it's how you carry yourself. And when you bring that energy back, the spark comes back. So I think it's really important to understand how this actually happens, because I always say that if you understand something, you're more likely to stick to it, right? If you understand why. So what's actually happening physically in your body? Okay, there's a few things. When you get in shape, your hormones start to rebalance, right? That's the way we could call it. How does that actually happen? Well, when you have fat, particularly belly fat, what it actually does is converts testosterone to estrogen because of an enzyme that's present. It converts testosterone to estrogen quicker. So for men, what that means is that your testosterone levels start to drop, right? You start feeling sluggish and a bit off and lowering confidence and drive. And for women, it means that your estrogen balance becomes chaotic because you've got this belly fat. It's converting what testosterone you have into estrogen. And then the estrogen becomes a little bit chaotic, causing things like mood swings and fatigue and libido. As you drop fat, particularly around this midsection here, those hormones start to rebalance. And very importantly, the cells that actually have the attachments to those hormones, the receptor sites, actually become more sensitive. How good is that? So even if the hormones don't rebalance as much as we would want them to, the fact that the receptor sites actually work better because they're not being blocked by fat, that is so good. So that's the first way it works. The second way is blood flow. So I want you to think about your cardiovascular system as like a plumbing network, right? And so when you're overweight and you're inflamed and you're inactive, those pipes are narrowed. The blood flow is terrible, but the pressure is really high. Does that analogy make sense? That's why poor cardiovascular health directly affects sexuality. So for men, it's weaker erections or not at all. For women, it's reduced blood flow to the genitals and the clitoral area. So when you get fit, your blood vessels become actually more elastic, right? Pressure normalizes, more oxygen-rich flow. This includes certain gases and nutrients and oxygen get to your actual glands. Now, all of a sudden, it's not magic. The flow is there. It's not blocked. The pipes are unclogged, right? It's physical. You've literally got the flow through your body now. Let's talk about nervous system control. When you're chronically stressed and you're in flight or fight mode, your body is taking the blood flow to the important centers of your brain and your muscles because it senses that you're under threat. That's why it's called fight or flight. So it thinks that you're running from some invisible tiger. Do you think that sex is on the mind? No. So your nervous system is redirecting all attention to keeping you alive. Are you going to be like, think of caveman Jennifer? Is caveman Jennifer or Jim going to want to have sex when they're trying to run away from something that's threatening their life? Of course not. When you calm your nervous system, it realizes that you're not so under attack anymore. And probably one other part is just the whole mobility and physical confidence, right? When your body moves better, I mean, it might sound silly, but when your hips are loosened up because you've been at the gym doing hip thrusts, or when you can actually move your shoulders or get into a squat, you're more mobile. So if you're more mobile and more physical, are you more able to feel like you just don't need to just lay on your back and just cop whatever's given? You're going to be more confident with your own body awareness. That's a turn on. So, in short, when you get healthy, you don't just look different, your entire internal environment changes. Hormones rebalance, blood flow increase, nervous system, confidence, desire comes back, right? You're not always just this tired, disconnected parent. You're living, you're breathing like a fully charged human again, and people can see that. And there's some truths that are really true between men and women. You can't feel sexy in a body that you neglect. Would you agree? Would you agree? Like you can't feel sexy in a body that you neglect. When you move, eat well, respect your body, you're whether you realize it or not, you're subconsciously telling yourself that I am worth it. And that shows up everywhere. That shows up in your posture, your tone, your smile, your patience, your energy. Society's expectation is no, you're just meant to get old. Like that's just what it is. You're just meant to be getting old, and now your primary role in life is to look after your kids. I could go on a complete rant about how there's like a real sense of indignity around getting old that I fucking hate. But are we going to accept that becoming a better parent is achieved by neglecting ourselves? Do we think that's true? And in what world do we think that our kids want that for us? How burdensome on the kids. This isn't this isn't about fixing your libido. It's about fixing your relationship with yourself by prioritizing yourself. Energy and libido don't come from supplements that you find in GNC. They come from lifting weights, building lean muscle, sleeping 6 to 7 to 8 hours a night. They come from managing stress and trying to not just drown it out, but try to address the root cause. They come from minimizing your alcohol intake and eating good food, especially a high protein, healthy fat orientation. When you do things that consistently, your chemistry just changes. You stop feeling like this drained, reactive person into this vibrant human again, and that becomes more attractive. Now, I want to say something here again from a male perspective. I think that a lot of women label men and just say, "Oh, they just want to get a shot off." There is some part of a man that just wants to get a shot off. Sure. But that's a natural drive, but well beyond that, and I certainly speak on behalf of myself, it's actually about your man wanting to feel connected to you. He might not be very good at communicating that. He might not be very good at talking, but when it's communicated, that touch is communicated, that is a really powerful way for a lot of men, not all men, to feel loved. And when you give him that gift, not as a giving in to his pressure, but as in working together as a couple because you've worked on yourself, both of you, it feels like a really big gift. It's an incredibly strong gift that you can give. And I do, as we bring this podcast to a close, I want to make an honest note. I know for some of you, and I haven't read any of the live comments yet, it's hard to even think about this topic. For example, if your partner is sick, I'm sorry, firstly, or if your relationship is already in a very dark place, naturally sex and intimacy feels like the very last thing on your mind. And this is a very difficult topic to tackle because for you, it's probably not high on your personal agenda. And I'm certainly not telling you that it should be. I'm not telling you that it should be. But rather than chasing sexuality or sex or sexiness as an outcome of this discussion, think of it, think of sexiness and sexuality and libido as almost an unexpected positive side effect of getting your fitness journey on. Almost none of the women that have told me, and plenty of men, that their sex is getting better, almost none of them set out to try to have better sex. That wasn't their goal. What happened was they wanted to lose weight. And then somehow, when they become more body aware and the changes started to happen from following the process, things started to happen in their sex life, which they didn't expect. And I think it also takes two to tango, as they say. And your partner needs to be on board by choice. But there is a role that you can play in this. It means like showing up yourself first and foremost with energy, mood, and kindness to try to open up conversations around intimacy where you make your loneliness or lack of connection, a topic where you actually talk about. And particularly if a woman is talking about this to a man, he's not likely going to know how to talk about this. So bear that in mind. And then doing things like, non-sexual connection stuff, like something that I love when my partner does is when I'm washing up or cooking, she'll come up and give me a hug from behind. And this is just my favorite fucking thing. It tells me that she's noticing me and that she's thinking about me and that she's attracted to me. And even in the craziness of being a parent, right, she's still there. I also want to share with you, again, before I wrap this one up, something that I learned, and I really think that this is a great insight because when I learned this, it's a simple idea. It's called responsive versus spontaneous desire. It sounds complicated, it's not. When I learned this, I understood that we think that we're meant to just feel sexy all the time. We're just meant to like want sex and crave it and desire it. Meaning it almost like pops up out of nowhere, right? I'm in the mood, I'm horny. My experience is that's called spontaneous desire. And not many people have that as their primary driver of intimacy. That happens early on a lot in a relationship and maybe when we're younger. But as adults, because we are so just buried under so much shit, as busy parents, it's kind of more like we're not in the mood until we actually started being close and relaxed with our partner. So in other words, the desire was responsive to the environment or some actions that I took or my partner took. We think that if we don't feel this like horniness or desire, that we're broken, that we're just wired differently. I'm just not a sexual person. That's not true. The desire kicks in after the connection, the safety, and the stimulation. It's responsive, not before it. And when you're stressed and you're tired and you're feeling self-conscious, you may never get to that start point, which makes you think that, fuck, there's something wrong with me, right? There's nothing wrong with you. You just need the environment for the desire to wake up. So instead of waiting for this like lightning bolt of like horniness out of that hasn't been there for 20 years, all of a sudden just coming, we've got to create the space for it, right? So instead of waiting for that lightning bolt, we have to put down our phones. We have to make connection with our partner. And again, that's a really hard thing to do. The goal isn't sex, the goal is connection. And again, sex comes as a consequence of the connection. Once your body feels safe and relaxed and seen, and that responsive desire starts to flicker and build. And I thought it's worth sharing that. As we close this out, guys, while I'm not an expert on you nor sex, I'm an expert on me. And I can talk from a strong conviction. When I'm in good shape, I don't mean having abs. That's not what I mean. When I'm in good shape, I don't just look better, I feel more magnetic. That word seems to just be the perfect word. There's more confidence, there's more play, there's more presence, and my relationship is better for it, because intimacy, like real intimacy, comes from confidence and connection. And when you feel proud of who you are, when you're taking care of your health, no matter where you are in your journey, whether you are running marathons every second weekend or you've just started to be consistent with 2,000 steps a day, when you get consistent with that, you are showing up with energy, and that brings spark back into your partnership. Transformation gives you this, sure, it gives you a leaner body, but more important than that is the psychology of it, right? It gives you this new identity, and that affects everything. That affects how you parent, how you work, how you love. So if you're kind of listening to this and thinking, yeah, like I've lost that spark, if I'm honest, I've lost that spark. I want you to know the spark is not gone and you are not broken. That's not what's going on here. It's probably just buried under a few layers. And as you begin to transform, don't just look at the scale weight and say, oh, the scale's not, like, if you're just looking at the scale weight, you're missing so many opportunities where other things can get good, which then feed back into the scale weight and end up deleting these ideas that you're not worthwhile enough to take care of yourself. Because when you feel good and then some intimacy returns, oh my God, the world just completely changes. Your perspective of how you look at it completely changes. You don't fix your fucking relationships by buying flowers or saying sorry for the 10th time. It's not how it works. You fix it by rebuilding the person that you bring to the relationship. You can't control what your partner does, but you can control how you show up by building your own confidence, by building strength and becoming a healthy parent. That's not just more attractive. It's like, I know how it feels firsthand. I can see my partner's watching eyes on me when I'm being a good dad because how I feel. Did you see the downline things here? And that feeds back up to her going, I want to have sex and be intimate with a man who takes care of my children. Like, that's an innate drive for a mum and vice versa for a dad. Guys, I'm going to leave the podcast episode there. More than anything, I think a lot of these podcasts are reminders of some things that we innately know, but maybe we've forgotten. And so hopefully this one has lit a little bit of a fire for you, or in you rather, to maybe go and have that conversation and maybe try some new things this week as a consequence, or at least have faith that if you keep following the journey that you're at, these good things are perhaps pleasant side effects that might come. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, coming to you for another episode. If you got value out of the episode, guys, especially if you're a client, if you haven't done this, I'm going to find you and hunt you down. Please give us a review on one of the platforms, Apple or Spotify particularly. You can just search Better Body Academy podcast. It helps show the podcast to more people. And I'll see you in the next episode. Peace. All right, guys, we are done and finished. So I can now have a look if there's any comments that I need to get across. Kia ora, legends. Hey, Marty. Pascal says the spark has come back, and I can assure that. Well, dude, you've lost, what, 20 kilos? Of course it's come back, mate. That's 20 kilos that's not between you and your partner anymore. Dude, well done. So good. And look, I totally understand that not a lot of people are going to comment on this episode for the reasons that there is a private element of this. I'll read Nick's comment. For a woman, I think menopause plays a big part of, 100%. 100%, Nick. Yeah, that gets wrapped up in all of the conversation around the hormonal component. And really, if I'm honest, Nick, it's only the last couple of years, particularly with our engagement of Dr. Ginny, that I've really started to understand just the gravity of the impact. I think most men have no fucking idea. Hey, Lynn, good morning. Michelle says, I love my husband's personality and how he treats me more than the looks. Yeah, so good. Nick says, that has really hit me hard, Jace. It actually gave me an understanding of putting it into perspective. Yeah, and I think the hard bit is like, as a trying to understand it from I can only comment from the men perspective, right? I think a lot of women just literally just think to men, like, to men, sorry, it's just like getting a shot off. Like, okay, yes, there is that element to it. But for me, like, personally, maybe I'm getting a bit too deep here. I'm quite happy to go a couple of weeks without getting a shot off. It's the connection when you're just like, fuck, I feel like I've been pulled 3 ways to the weekend over the course of a day. When I come and sit next to my partner and she puts her hand on my inner thigh, I don't even mean playing with it. I just mean just puts her hand on my inner thigh. It's like, it tells me everything's okay. And all the boys that watch this or listen to this will be like, oh my God, what a pussy. Except they feel the exact same way. They just don't know how to express it, right? There's something about it which feels really, really good. And that's connection. Jen says, it's so true. Building confidence brings the sexiness back. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Amanda says, BBA was my absolute savior during my recovery. Yeah, of hysterectomy at 34 years of age. I was super worried about the libido, and knowledge and support had me kept on track and still feeling sexy, which kept the spark. I mean, amazing, amazing, mans. And we certainly miss your posts, and we love you, girlfriend. Okay, guys. Well, look, I'm going to love you and leave you there. Hopefully the podcast helped out a little bit with even just a reminder. Like I said, guys, if you would be so kind, I would really love if you could. All you need to do is go over to Apple or Spotify, leave us a little comment or a review, and it really, really helps get the podcast out to more people. But apart from that, guys, peace out, and I'll see you soon. Thanks so much.